Thank you very much, John. Hello, everybody. It's great to be here. My name is Louis, as you've heard, and I will talk a little bit about an action guide to implement augmented reality in design and engineering today. And across this talk, I have a couple of points that I want to show you, and I want to share some of the experience that we made when working together with enterprise customers. And what's, I think, important to know is that, first of all, a couple of things about HoloLight itself, the company I work for as a co-founder and chief marketing officer. We are for more than 8 years now in the market, and we work together with enterprises in a variety of different sectors. And we saw challenges, we saw success stories when working together with these companies. And I want to share this experience with you in this action guide that we presented. This is not only a talk, it's actually even a document that we can share with you afterwards if you stop by at our HoloLight booth the next 2 days. But for now, we'll do it like this. I want to start with a couple of challenges that we see in general when we have a look on the entire design and engineering market. So first of all, what we see is that obviously this is a market where costs are pretty high. All these companies who are producing and creating 3D elements, like for example a car, an airplane, a machine, usually is related to high costs, and wherever we find high costs, there's a chance to save a little bit. Secondly, the topic of sustainability and digital engineering gets more and more important. We see companies that are really thinking about how can we become more sustainable. It's part of their company strategy, so some people have to, but some others want to. And last but not least, it's also important to say, okay, everything can get more digital. And everybody who's visiting such an event as AWE, I think totally understands that this is related to digitalization. The third point is the pressure that we see that is put on the companies, especially if you think about global competition, the fact we see many companies that can no longer work as they work today because there is so much pressure coming. And last but not least, communication and collaboration is a very important topic. As companies work more and more together, they work more decentralized, many people in home office, and this also affects the design and engineering industry and is something that we will have a look on. And what I prepared in the next 15-20 minutes are these 6 points that we go through together and where I'll share some of the experience that we made so far. First one is how far can augmented reality actually go? So we have to understand the technology. Second, how do I identify a use case in engineering? And then the third point, safety, technology adoption, one of the most important parts. We need people to interact with the technology. The fourth point is then IT integration and data security. John mentioned the topic of streaming, something that I would like to introduce to you. Fifth, the topic of ROI. Everybody wants to get something back when investing in such a technology, and I'll share some orientation where you can actually find the return on investment. And the last point is, who should now push things? And these are the 6 points that we will talk about. So how far can we actually go with augmented reality? I know that some of you guys are really already experts in AR/VR, but for sure, not your entire company is. And that's very important to understand. So even if you're the expert, this action guide should help also your colleagues to become experts. What can the technology actually do? What do you add? What's new? And this is important to understand. First of all, new technology. Obviously, we have to understand what new technology actually means. Spatial understanding, understanding the room, tracking. These are all technological components that we need to understand, and we have to bring this in relation with the new hardware that is coming on the market. Which hardware can do what? This is important to understand. And something that many companies always underestimated is this new way of interaction. People are not used to work with AR devices still, and that's why it's very important to understand what is coming new, and AWE is the best place to really jump into these topics. And then many people forget, what do you actually have already? And that's even more important, yeah, because we come from a side where we already have data, yeah, that we want to work with. Existing people that are used to existing processes and the systems, something like a PLM system that is already available. We need to connect both, yeah, and make sure we have a digital continuity so that to bring all that together. How do we identify a use case? This is a very difficult question, but in the end, if you find somebody in your company who looks like this guy, then you're at the right place. Because wherever you have high costs today, you'll find a use case, I'm pretty sure. Wherever material is expensive, think about the automotive industry. Producing a car is very, very expensive, yeah? Each part, and not even just the physical part, but also even a 3D print in a specific size costs money. And wherever you find something that is expensive, there's a chance for a good use case. Where do complications arise, yeah? Where do you nowadays have issues when people talk? Where do you have situations where you need to make changes very often? This is very important to understand because you'll find a use case there. Third point, where do employees actually wait for something? Wherever you have downtimes, waiting times, there is a use case because things can get more efficient. And last but not least, where are things unsustainable or analog? Where do you have to get out of a digital process, print something, for example? Where do you need to travel because you cannot see it virtually? This is definitely something where you find use cases. And we see that companies sometimes struggle to identify these use cases. Because, to be honest, design review is not a use case. What do you want to review? Yeah? Why do you want to review it? This is very important to understand, and then you will find a good use case. Where do we as HoloLight see use cases for design and engineering? Because what we also have to understand, there is something like a beachhead market, a market where it's obvious that technology can help. And these are the industries that we work in. Automotive, aerospace and defense, manufacturing are the most important ones. And then we have a couple of enterprises we work with in medtech and construction. And the use cases, they vary. Yeah? Product development is a very important one. Wherever we produce something new, we can use this technology. Design reviews, but as mentioned before, not just reviewing it, comparing it with another object, for example. This is a reason for reviewing something. I want to see it virtually because I don't want to invest into the production of a physical prototype, or at least I don't want to do it that often. Stakeholder engagement, super important, yeah? The engineers and designers are usually experts for what they produce. But there are many people in the company who have difficulties in understanding why do we design it in this and that way. Can be the sales team, can be the product team, and these people, they need to work together, and AR can help them in getting a better understanding. Factory simulation, yeah, it's not just the object itself, but the whole production topic of digital twin where we can look into it. And then we go into training. But when we talk about training, we don't take it too broad because you can train everything. We talk in this context of design engineering very often about assembly training. So how do I mount something? People definitely underestimate how many processes are still manual. Think about an airplane. Yeah? It doesn't make sense to go into mass production because they are not, we don't produce thousands of airplanes per month. Yeah? So there are manual tasks still available. And quality control. Yeah? The less errors we do, the less costs we produce. Yeah? So these are use cases that we go into. And I brought one case study for you guys so that you can see and get a feeling of how does this actually look like. We work together with the BMW Group since a couple of years, and we deliver a software tool for them which helps their designers and engineers to visualize their 3D content and interact with it and do a couple of things. The challenges that they face, for example, are the costs for prototypes. Because as you can see here, the cars, before they go into mass production, they need to be designed, yeah? And they have a couple of car series and many, many cars that are produced. So it's not like they just have one car. They want to evaluate the concepts, yeah? And they have to bring in together many, many different parts. So there are many engineers working together. For example, your colleague is producing or creating a part of the car, the chassis, yeah? Others are doing the wiring. You have to bring that together and understand, okay, where are the requirements for my colleague, and how do we fit together? And then a very big topic is the visualization, of the 3D CAD models in AR. Because whatever they have and whatever they're designing, they're using powerful workstation nowadays. But the devices that we work with here at the show, they are not that powerful. So how can we bring in that together? I'll have an answer to that later on. And they are using our application ARIS, which stands for Augmented Reality Engineering Space. And this gives them the opportunity to visualize their 3D CAD models. And as you can see here on the screen, they are visualizing, for example, the front of the car, overlaying it with the object, and then they evaluate what they created. And they have benefits out of this. And they were able to make a statement that the design decisions can be done up to 12 months earlier. And this means saving a lot of money and staying competitive. And this is very important. And secondly, they have less errors because they see before they create. Yeah? And this helps a lot and avoids errors. And last point is cost savings in the prototyping process. Companies have issues in communicating how much they really save. Yeah, this is not something that you find so easily when you read about a case study, but it goes into millions if you especially scale that from one car to an entire car series to the entire company. Safety and technology adoption. This is also a very important topic. And when we're talking about safety, yeah, we have to talk about the devices also. There are a couple of great devices out there that can be used in design and engineering. Historically, we've worked a lot with the HoloLens 2, and this is for sure a great device. All these devices that are mentioned here on the AR side, they have spatial understanding, because when working in design and engineering, we want to see stuff in 3D. So it's very important that we can visualize things stable in the room. But depending on what you actually want to do, you have to choose the right device. So don't just take a device and make the use case, but think about the use case first and then use the device. Magic Leap, for example, has a great device when it comes to the visual quality of the visualization. Yeah? If this is your priority for your use case, you might want to look into this one. And then think about AR and VR. Very often you have to decide whether you want to go into AR or VR. At HoloLight, we think it's more important that actually you can use both and combine both. Because you might have an engineer which is in home office and does not have much space around him, so he wants to take a VR device. And then you have a colleague who is in the factory, has in front of him a real physical part. These people should be able to work together so that you can get the best out of both technologies. Certificates are very important, but think about also what feature does each glasses, for example, brings with him. For example, is my device able to scan a QR code or not? Yeah. Very simple topic, but you have to understand that, and that's why you have to look into it. How do we measure success? This is also a very important topic. We've seen many companies struggling by identifying actually different KPIs. Yeah? They don't know. They start with a POC, they do something, but then the POC is over and they have no idea whether this was successful or not, because they forgot to define clear KPIs. What do we want to achieve? Yeah? Where do we come from actually? If you want to reduce the number of tasks, yeah, in a certain process, you need to know how many steps you have before you use AR. Yeah? So this is very important. And then talking to people is very important, yeah, to the users, because the user is the one using the technology in the end. So it's very, very important to get this constant feedback in order to make the solution very easy. For us, it's a very important topic to make it simple for the users. So we invest a lot of time in the optimization of a user interface, for example, because if you have to click a button 10 times, it's very difficult. And then don't give up after the first mile. We've seen so many companies doing one POC, and then it kind of, I don't know, got out of focus, was not so successful. But it's important to learn from what was wrong and do it better, because the technology has potential. Everybody of you knows how the reports look like for the forecasts for revenue in this industry. It's amazing, it's mind-blowing. So there is definitely advantage, but you need to go to the second and third mile. And then share your experience with colleagues, suppliers, management. Suppliers, I mean myself, yeah, and our company. It's very important to get that feedback. We can only improve if we get direct feedback from an enterprise, so it's very important to talk. Now we come to the IT integration and data security, because it's very important to understand that we are still facing some challenges, and we want to go out of a POC phase to a scaling phase where we use technology on a broader scale. And here are some of the challenges that we saw when working together with companies. First of all, the lack of device performance. Devices, as mentioned before, they are limited in performance. Where should it come from? We want to have it small. We want to wear it on our noses, yeah, and it should be easy to wear. And there's no space for a super powerful server environment. We don't have centralized XR platforms. I know so many island solutions, yeah. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, yeah. This has to be avoided. We have to centralize it. Then this seamless interface between the XR application and the content is very, very important. If XR is a separate topic, an island solution in a company, you'll lose sooner or later, yeah. It has to be integrated with the existing systems. It has to be integrated with the content that is already available. If we have to produce all the content from scratch, I don't want to do that actually. And then we haven't seen a scalable approach for rollouts. Yeah? So many people start, but they have no idea how to move on. And it's very important to keep these things in mind. And one of the concepts that can really actually help in setting up a scalable infrastructure is remote rendering or streaming. And I'll quickly explain how this concept works. Usually, XR applications run on devices directly. And that's why they can only work with the performance that we have available on the device. In this case, on the XR device side, we just have an application to connect with the server side. And we outsource the entire application from the device to the server side. And on the server, we usually have much more GPU performance. We usually have much more capacity to render an application and send the rendered images to the device. So the device is just a receiver for an image. It's like pixel streaming. You visualize a 3D object that was rendered before in the cloud, and the information that is sent is always the same. Yeah? So that's a really, really great concept because you have more performance on the cloud, on the server side. You can visualize everything on your XR device side. And secondly, it's even more secure, which is very, very important for everybody working in design and engineering because the stuff that is created is confidential usually. And if you have data on the device, a device can get stolen, everybody can access the data, and that's why we shift the whole content to the server side because the server infrastructure is IT approved, it's secure, and the only thing you have on the device is an image stream. Yeah? If somebody can see something, okay, that's it, but he will never have the data. And this is why the concept of remote rendering and streaming is so nice for IT, it's so nice for the user because it's secure and the overall experience for the user is much, much better. So the ROI is a very, very important topic because everybody says, hey, I have to invest a lot of money. Devices are still very expensive nowadays. It's getting better and better, but still, what is my value? What is my output? And I will not give you like a form where you can like calculate everything for yourself, but what I will give you is some indicators where you will find your return on investment. So first of all, it's classic cost savings. Wherever you have high costs for material, and think about physical prototypes, think about plastics, about clay models that are designed in the automotive industry, wherever you have that, there's a chance to save money. So you need to know how much do I spend today and how much will I save if I use augmented reality. Time savings, yeah? And here it's not just important to say, okay, it's travel, but travel in hours, in days. Yeah? How much days do I save if a colleague does not have to jump into the plane and fly over to another city? Very, very important. The time to market is a classic point. We've seen the example of BMW. Yeah? If you save 12 months in the decision-making process, yeah, this will affect your time to market. Yeah? You will be able to bring your product earlier to the market. And when we look on product quality, this is also very important. And product quality feels like a soft benefit, but you can make it a hard benefit if you think about the number of design faults that you are going to reduce. Yeah? The number, and this obviously affects also the savings, the cost savings, but also the returns and complaints that you will save if the stuff that you produce is perfectly fine. And then the sustainability and digitization topic. I think it's definitely also a driver, because if you can say that you're saving CO2 by less traveling, this is obviously a nice story and is pushing the whole topic forward. If you can save plastic parts because you don't have parts that you need to throw away after using it once, this is also something that is very, very helpful. If you can reuse virtual parts all the time, this is a huge benefit. So return on investment, very important topic, but we want to help people to understand, where do I find the return on invest? Last point, who will drive AR in your company? That's a very good topic, because we see very often that companies hire an AR/VR expert, and maybe it's even you, but you'll not be able to do all alone, because you need to work together with the departments, especially with designers and engineers, because they are doing their current work and they need to understand how the future could look like. And if you want to become the next Max Verstappen, winner of the Formula 1, then you need to know a couple of things. First of all, staying up to date is super important. How often did I talk to somebody on a fair and the person was telling me, oh no, I already tried this. 4 or 5 years ago, old generation of hardware, and they have no idea, these people have no idea what the technology can actually do. So it's always repeating, staying up to date, what is the new technology doing? And then implementing in the short term, super important, but you have to know how your long-term story looks like, What do you want to achieve in the next year, 2 years, 5 years, And there are many companies having really great plans for the future, and they know how to go there step by step. And I think, but there are still companies that have issues in setting up this plan. The third point is that AR/VR is the foundation of the metaverse. At HoloLight, with what we do, we want to also make sure that you can set up something like the industrial metaverse, which is very important. But what's important to understand is it starts with AR/VR. If you haven't understand what AR/VR can do, it will be super tough to set up a metaverse strategy. And that's why you start with AR/VR first. And the last point, which we always have to keep in mind, is you are not implementing augmented reality or virtual reality technologies, you are implementing a solution. It's a huge difference, because we shouldn't work and act technology driven. You should act like you would find a better solution for existing processes. You want to make your company better. You want to improve the happiness of people. And that's why I always have to think about the solution. If AR is not the right solution for a use case, go with something else. But the good thing is, AR in many cases can help, and I hope you got a little bit of an overview about what it can do. If you want to experience what HoloLight is actually doing here at the fair, then visit our booth tomorrow. We'll have an engineering application that is fully streamed via our platform, so you have the chance to experience the benefits of streaming, and you get a better feeling for the use cases in design and engineering, all packed in one package. And we'll be around here. Later on at 2:15, there will be a great talk from my colleague Susanne with Northrop Grumman, and they will talk about the challenges that actually companies like Northrop Grumman have when scaling XR. So I can highly recommend that. And having said that, I would like to thank you all for listening, and have a good day.
Do we have time for one question?
Yeah, sure.
One question. You'd have to come to the microphone in the middle of the room would be great. Thank you.
Hello. How do you manage infrastructure for cloud remote rendering, and the fact that the heads move all the time, even when we stay still, and that the rendering is at the right place?
Yeah. So getting a stable experience for the user is very important. And when you stream from the cloud or for any kind of server, latency and bandwidth are very important. So you need a high bandwidth. Usually, you need to have low latency. We optimized our streaming in a way, working with topics like reprojection, so looking a bit in the future. So you have to understand where is the user moving with the head to always have this new image in real time. And we optimized this process with a couple of technical technical components to have a very stable streaming experience. It is possible to get a stable experience even if you're streaming from Germany to the East Coast in the US. Yeah? But it's always depending a little bit on the use case. Yeah? So how much real time do you need for which use case? So finding this right architecture and infrastructure is definitely something that we discuss intensively with our clients, but we have all kinds of infrastructures. We have GovCloud solutions, we have 5G campus networks, we have on-premise setups, and this is what I think what's great, because we can offer that flexibility, and depending on which cloud provider the customer has, we can offer, I think, a good IT setup. You're welcome. Thank you very much. Then have a great show.